Hi there. Do your calves seem like they're chronically tight? And then you stretch them and they just don't quite get stretched out? Well, it could be that because they're connected to this connective tissue that's in the bottom of the feet, from the back all the way up through the back of the neck. So we're going to do a little thorough calf release today. My name is Allison. Please join me. So we're going to begin in a downward dog position because this is where a lot of people feel their calves being really tight. And I've heard a lot of people complain that they can't get their heels down on the floor, which is fine. But we really want the calf release is really what we're looking for. So go ahead and step your feet up and grab a yoga tune-up ball or a tennis ball. And we're going to do a plantar fascia stretch here. The toes are up against the ball with the foot flat, and we're going to walk forward and peel up from the heel all the way through the sole of the foot. Yes. And you may want to hold it, or you could repeat this a few times. I usually like to repeat this, going in and out of this stretch about 3 to 5 times. And immediately you feel your foot dropping into the floor, really connecting with the floor, the earth. Let's do our second side. Wonderful. Okay, so we are done with the ball for now. Let's come back into our downward facing dog and just check out the connection of the feet against the floor. We're also going to do this little toe stretch, which is another foot exercise. We stretch the toe out and touch the pinky toe. This is the pinky toe we're working. We're working the pinky toe out. Big toe forward, pinky toe reaches out. See if you can leave the middle 3 toes up. That might give you a nice little chuckle for the day. But when we work with this, you'll do it quicker than you might think. Big toe stretches forward, pinky toe stretches out. Let's make sure we get both feet. Wonderful. So let's grab a ball and a block. A block and a ball. I'm just going to have a seat on the floor. So while you're seated here, we're going to talk about a couple of different muscles. We're going to talk about the soleus, which is toward the outside of the calf. We're going to talk about the gastrocnemius, which is toward the inside of the calf. And we're also going to talk about popliteus, which is deeper, but it runs kind of behind where those two muscles meet under the knee. Have a seat if you haven't already, and join me for this calf rollout. We're going to start with the soleus, so that muscle toward the outside of the calf. And a couple of different ways to do this. You can place your calf on the ball and roll here. And you can even pick you want to make sure your chest is lifted, but you can pick your hips up to get a little bit more pressure through that calf muscle. Or if you just want to sit and kind of point and flex your foot or kind of bounce your leg a little bit, that works too. Now we're moving toward the inside of that same leg, working on gastrocnemius. Don't you just love muscle names? They're just so fun to say. Now, make sure your elbow also is bending in towards your ribs. So we don't want to sacrifice the shoulder for the calves. Just make sure that elbow is squeezing in instead of out. That'll keep your shoulder safe. All right. Taking it now to the knee pit-ish. So what I mean by ish is if you take it to the knee pit, way deep in the knee pit, bring it down an inch or two so that when you squeeze your hip to your heel, you get into popliteus. That's a fun muscle name to say, popliteus. And then we're going to wave the knee side to side and breathe in and out of the nose. Popliteus is connected to the kidney meridian in acupuncture or Chinese medicine. All right, let's do all that to the second side. And you might notice there might be a different thing going on over here on the second side. You might feel it a little bit the same, like your tightness is toward the outside of the calf versus the inside of the calf. But pretty much, I always feel like I'm always tight in the calves. What about you? I also find that most of us who get tight in the calves are also at the same time tight in the neck. But it's the same sheath of connective tissue, the superficial backline of connective tissue or fascia. So a lot of times that just totally makes sense if it's the same sheath of connective tissue. Let's go into that gastrocnemius here on side 2. And last but definitely not least, oops, I almost forgot popliteus here. Last but definitely not least, putting that ball kind of in the pit of the knee-ish and taking the hip forward toward the heel and doing a little side-to-side action. Release. Wasn't that delicious? Now we get to come back into our downward dog and check out the calves. What are you feeling here? You are welcome to move around here. In fact, let's go ahead and take the left foot into coupe. So just kind of wrap the left foot around the right ankle and start to shift your hips side to side. You want your heel dropping down into the floor. And stay with your breath, breathing long and smooth. Let's switch left foot down, right foot into coupe with a little hip shift. Placing both feet gently on the floor And the knees, set the knees down on the floor. All right, moving into a plank. Now this plank is less about being planky and more about being able to push into the heels. So if you think about that little coupe we did on the down dog, same thing here, one at a time, and you can also shift your hips to really get into the calves. This is a really deep stretch for your calves. So enjoy this. And if your hips lift up kind of into a half dog, half plankish position, like don't worry about that part. And coming back into your down dog, just kind of walking into it to check out the relief, the release. Taking a moment to notice all of that. Step your feet up to a forward fold. Make sure your ribs and thighs touch, and then exhale to stand. And we're going to grab the yoga tune-up balls, and we're going to have them both in a tote. This can also be done with one ball, but I prefer two. So what we're going to do here is a nice little stretch. Your foot forward, as far forward as it goes, is going to be dependent on how much stretch you want or don't want. But I like to do this one first with a little twist, because I don't know if you've ever gone into a stretch and you go into it like 100%, but your body resists because it's like so intense. So that's what I like to do here, is just a smaller calf stretch with a twist. So you can feel yourself kind of going from soleus to through the maybe you can feel popliteus, but gastrocnemius for sure. Now let's switch to the other side and breathe. This series is perfect if you just have tight calves for whatever reason. You walk, you run, maybe you are an athlete. Maybe you just got a new pair of shoes. They make your calves a little tight. This is now a calf stretch with the block. So it's the same stretch that we did with the yoga tune-up balls, but it's just now a little more intense. Switching sides. And again, it's more stretch the more your free foot steps forward, less stretch the more you step that free foot back. And release. Great work, you guys. Let's step into another downward facing dog. Feel your calves here. Feel the freedom. And this is a cumulative practice, which means that if you practice this and you have some relief, your connective tissue gets tight again, no matter what. So when you go in and practice it the next time, you build on what you just created here. It's always a pleasure practicing with you. My name is Allison Rush. Hit subscribe to follow, and I will see you soon. Until then, take really good care.